It's been more than 70 years since Jackie Robinson broke barriers as the first African American to play in Major League Baseball. He would go on to become a civil rights activist, a friend of Martin Luther King Jr. And today, his daughter's writing about that fight, about what became her fight, a new novel called A Child of the Dream. Sharon Robinson recalls growing up during the civil rights movements, working with her father for equality, and she writes, quote, "During our dinner table conversation, we always had some time to talk about what was happening with us kids. But it always moved into what was happening outside of our home. So we were very focused on what kind of social changes were happening. It wasn't just about the civil rights movement. I watched political news. I was very involved with politics with my dad. So that was part of my relationship with him. This connection with the civil rights movement was a big piece of it." Sharon Robinson joins us now. Sharon, great to have you with us. What moved you to write this book? Why now?
The 1963 Children's March in Birmingham, Alabama was an inspiration for me, and I wanted to find a way to help it be an inspiration for children today. I feel like they're struggling with so many issues. They need to look back at history and see how activism played a part in changing laws, but also changing cultures.
You say you don't really remember your dad as a baseball player like the rest of the world, but you really remember him as a civil rights activist. Explain that.
Well, I was 7 when he retired from Major League Baseball, so I certainly knew he was a baseball player, but I did not go to attend many of his games. So I grew up with him as an activist and a businessman, and he brought it home to our dining room table every evening. So he traveled south raising money for the civil rights movement, and then he found a way to bring the family into the movement as a family.
So as a child, as a parent myself, I always think about how do I make sure my children learn the right lessons about, how to be good people and how to, interact with others. What did you take away from him as a father in terms of those types of lessons?
That struggle is ongoing, and that we talked about them as a family, and we found a way to have an active role. So we started having the jazz concerts at our home to raise money for NAACP and SCLC, Dr. King's work, and we also went to the March on Washington as a family. So we as a family became activists, and Dad said, you have to find work you love, keep God and family as a priority, but we also going to have a family mission. And we've continued that since my dad's passing so many years ago through the Jackie Robinson Foundation and our work, our careers.
In his autobiography, your father writes the following: "There I was, the black grandson of a slave, the son of a black sharecropper, part of a historic occasion, a symbolic hero to my people. The air was sparkling, the sunlight was warm, the band struck up the national anthem, the flag billowed in the wind. It should have been a glorious moment for me as the stirring words of the national anthem poured from the stands. As I write this 20 years later, I cannot stand and sing the anthem. I cannot salute the flag. I know that I am a black man in a white world." Your father was speaking about his first World Series game there. That was 70 years ago. And now, here we are today. Players are kneeling. They still don't feel like this country represents or necessarily respects them or treats them equally. How do you think your father would feel about where race relations are today compared to 70 years ago?
Well, he prepared us that it was going to be an ongoing struggle. It's become more complex. It's no longer just a black and white world. We're no longer just changing laws, and he also told me that it's harder you can't legislate against hate. So we do have to teach kindness, as you're talking about, with our children, and help them understand a world beyond our immediate families. And we do that by talking with them and being open about our feelings and allowing them to express their feelings about race.
What do you think your father's message would be to these players who are, taking their activism onto the field?
Well, that protest is important, and it's part of the phase, and we have to move beyond protest and have a plan for change and for activism. So you know what you're protesting for and have a plan. Part of what we learned in the civil rights movement is to keep it tight and focused on something specific. And so I think that the players, many of them have set up foundations and are really doing some positive things as a result of their activism.
We're seeing Democratic candidates now talk more about resegregation of schools, about criminal injustice and environmental injustice when it comes to minorities. How do you think the candidates are handling these issues, and is anyone's message in particular resonating with you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm a Democrat, so I'm still watching the field, but we certainly have to deal with all of the issues that they're talking about, and people have to get out and vote. So our voting is going to be so important. So my dad would have been out there with voter registration drives, and that's what we all must do. We must encourage our young people and as well as our adults to get out and vote, because that's the only way you really have a voice.
Sharon Robinson, it's a good way to end that segment with that message. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Again, the book is Child of the Dream.
Ever since he was a young boy in Texas, Sean Pleasants had promise. A valedictorian in high school, he got into Harvard but chose Yale, majoring in economics. Wall Street beckoned, then came his own business.
I own all of my decisions and choices, good and the bad.
Today, he is homeless, living on the streets of Los Angeles.
It means it can happen to anybody.
It can happen to anybody. No one is. It's not someone else's problem. It's a problem we all could face.
Amid squabbles with his co-founders, the income dried up, and then he lost his rock, his mother, and the problems got worse. He is one of 60,000 homeless in the county of Los Angeles.
You'll find musicians, you'll find, there's the photographer over there. The problem is with the cost of housing.
They all live in a small tent city in LA's Koreatown neighborhood, dwarfed by gentrification that has taken over the area. A quarter of the nation's homeless now live in California. From LA's Skid Row to the streets of San Francisco, drug needles litter the sidewalks and crews are routinely dispatched to clean up human waste, mere blocks away from some of the biggest tech companies in the world.
What they are doing to our beautiful California is a disgrace to our country.
President Trump may be on the verge of a major crackdown. According to the Washington Post, he is considering a directive to have the tents swept up, with the homeless moved to an unused government building. Critics point out that such an action would not only be illegal, but counterproductive.
The idea that we're going to force people into a facility that's probably located in a very remote area is not a solution.
Mike Dickerson co-founded a homeless advocacy group. He says a better solution for Trump would be figuring out how to build more affordable housing and providing better services, whether it's mental health or connecting people to jobs.
Often it is not framed as an issue of compassion, of trying to get people housed, but more of an issue of we need to get these tents off the street.
How would it strike you if all this stuff was just kind of removed, you folks were taken to some other place?
Then I would leave that other place immediately.
Sean, 52 years old and married to another homeless man, doesn't want to be confined by the rules of a shelter.
You just stretch your body.
Exactly.
This is where you sleep.
He has both a laptop and a cell phone. He's been occupying this space in Koreatown for 6 years and has been homeless for a decade. He admits to being a regular meth user, but spending just a few hours with Sean, he still possesses that intellectual curiosity that took him to the Ivy League.
I would prefer to be somewhere where I can still go to the library when I want to and go there and do the things I need to do.
But then there's the reality of life on the streets.
Every time you sleep, that's when you lose. That's when people come and take your things. I'm a heavy sleeper. I lose a lot.
Well, I spoke to Sean Pleasant's family. They have repeatedly tried to help him over the years, but he has rebuffed those efforts. Just shows you what a complicated situation this can be for both the homeless and their families. Now, John, in terms of federal officials intervening, what state officials will tell you is that they welcome those efforts. They welcome resources, but simply cracking down and not adding more housing, they say, is not a tenable solution.
All right, on to our other major story of the morning. This morning, the United Nations is saying that it believes that Hurricane Dorian left at least 70,000 people homeless on Abaco and Grand Bahama. Thousands more are missing, and many are feared dead.
Yeah, the official death toll, in fact, just
right.
43. They expect that to surge significantly. This is a tragedy that's unfolding beyond words, really, as we listen to people who are there. Officials are bringing in more body bags. They say they're still trying to recover bodies from some of the hardest hit areas. In fact, Gary Tuckman, who's there, says and I hate to say this, but it's his best characterization. He says, when you are there, you just smell death.
And people like Gary have seen so many of these situations, and we're hearing all of these superlatives, not just to make this sound like such a sensational story, but because it is a sensational story.
Very good point.
And it's truly unique in its horrors. And one of our correspondents, one of our anchors who has witnessed these horrors in the last few hours and days is our Victor Blackwell. He is in Nassau and has been spending time in Marsh Harbor in Abaco. This is part of what he has been seeing.
The strongest storm to ever hit the Bahamas, the strongest storm on the planet this year. This is what those superlatives look like up close. This business, apparently, in those 180-mile-per-hour winds, just collapsed onto itself. You could see a counter here, but what this was really isn't decipherable by what's left here. But let me take you to this side, because the only thing that's left here are stairs and the beginning of a porch. I can't even tell what was here. Those winds were so strong. For 9 hours, from one point where the eye of Dorian approached to Abaco, came on land to the time the other side of the eye exited, it was 9 hours those winds were here with gusts up to 225 miles per hour. As far as you can see from Marsh Harbor, there is damage. This area is decimated, and it will take a very long time to rebuild.
That's part of what he saw. Victor's with us now from NASA. Victor, I know that you have been through this before, through hurricanes. You've seen the aftermath. Help us understand how this might be different.
Christy and Alex, good morning to you. The scale here is unimaginable. I mean, when we flew over and landed several times on Abaco and there in Marsh Harbor, just it's not a very large island, but as it stretched on and on, you saw just how much work ahead there is, not only to rebuild, but to find those potentially in what's left. What many people do not get an appreciation for on camera, a screen, a television screen, your cell phone, you're watching the video, is the depth, the height of these piles of rubble. In there you've got just boards of just some lumber and building materials, but also containers from the port tossed in. So imagine the care it will take to lift these huge containers, but still respect that there might be some bodies there as well, and do that carefully. Listen, let me tell you what's going to start right after sunrise. If today is like every other day this week, that those rescue flights from choppers, the U.S. Coast Guard, planes that have been chartered, others, boats as well, they will try to go back to Abaco, a 90-minute flight by chopper, round trip, and bring people here. The headline of the local paper, of those people waiting, sums it up. The Guardian, we've had enough. Hundreds of people we saw were there crowded at the edges of tarmacs at Marsh Harbor Airport and Treasure Key Airport. We spoke with one boy who was there at Marsh Harbor, 14 years old. His name is Velson Rene. He was there with his family, had been there all day. The temperature in the high 80s feels like 98 degrees, and he tells us what he experienced sitting in with his family in a small room as the hurricane came ashore.
My nephew's mom died with a baby because she was trying to go back in the house to get the bag for the baby, but then when the water hit her, she just gone with the baby. Miss home, but I feel kind of, I don't know, probably worried because I ain't hear a lot from my family members.
Who haven't you heard from?
Some of my cousins, some of my sister, she's in the United States, but she's okay. But my dad is in here. He's on vacation and he can't come back because the planes haven't been traveling a lot. So I ain't heard from cousins, aunts, a lot of people.
Listen, the Bahamian people are resilient, but there is an exhaustion here, and you could feel that in my conversation with Velson. And there are a lot of people here who are waiting to hear from loved ones. They want some confirmation that they are safe, that they are in some place of comfort. When we landed at Marsh Harbor, there was a family of 4, the Moreaus. They were trying to be evacuated, but there was not enough room for all 4 on one chopper. So my crew and I, we invited 14-year-old Malik Moreau. And 21-year-old Kendley Victor, today is actually his 22nd birthday, to board our chopper flight. Now, this had been the first time they'd seen the scope once we lifted off the ground. Remember, they have no access to television because the power's out, cell phone service is bad, no internet available for most people. So as we took off, Kendley looked out the window and just shook his head. I mean, as he saw just how much had been damaged and to the extent, he couldn't believe it. And I wanted to ask him about what he experienced as the storm hit, and he immediately said, "I don't want to talk about it." So I backed off and we were silent. And about 15 to 20 seconds later, he said, "Because when people ask me about it, I feel like it's a nightmare and I can't wake up." And he also told us that he had not slept since he came out after the storm was over, but he did get some sleep on that flight. They are now both, the Moreau family and Kendley Victor, they're now here in Nassau with family. But that's the story of so many people. As you reported, the UN reporting that 70,000 people have lost their homes on Grand Bahama and on Abaco. The local paper reporting that the Prime Minister says there's no way that Nassau can absorb 70,000 people. The question is, what happens next? How many people, even after Abaco is rebuilt, after Grand Bahama is rebuilt, will go back? A long recovery for the Bahamas.
My goodness, Victor, cannot imagine what you're saying. And boy, these people, it's unfathomable, really. Thank you so much, Victor Blackwell.
Thanks for bringing that home. You guys stay safe, Victor.
I mean, think about it. It's been a week since these people are dealing with this. And then, of course, now we've got North Carolina.
Well, and just that incredible shot of that young man in the helicopter perched on the edge in the opening there, just seemingly dazed and stunned as they flew over what was once his home. You can't imagine. I can't imagine what must have been what he's trying to process there.
No, I agree.
All right, well, the story of Hurricane Dorian continues back here in the United States. Several cities are cleaning up after the hurricane made landfall in Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. 5 deaths are being blamed on that storm so far here in the U.S.
You're looking here at an aerial view of North Carolina's Ocracoke Island. Disastrous flooding there. And that's what left behind by Hurricane Dorian. Residents say they had to wade in waist-deep water in their own homes. A lot of people had to be rescued from their upper floors or their attics. They had to be rescued by boat. Those floodwaters are slowly starting to recede this morning, but there is a lot of work that's going to have to be done there. And we want to remind you, I know that a lot of times we watch this and think, I want to help, but I have no idea what they need or what I could possibly do in the Bahamas or here in the U.S. But we're trying to make that possible for you. Go to our website, cnn.com/impact, for ways that you can indeed offer some help.
Yeah, please head on over there.
There are too many towns that symbolize the boom and bust in the Rust Belt. Monessen, Pennsylvania is one of them. Once a thriving steel town with a population of 25,000, but now the steel mills shuttered and just a fraction of the people remain. If Monessen is a poster child of the steel industry's good times and bad, is Monessen now going to become the poster child of the president's trade war and a failed campaign promise when the president said he'd bring that industry back? CNN's Vanessa Yurkevich went to find out.
I'm going to look at the mill because I got so many memories.
It's been 32 years since John Gollum worked in this steel mill in Monessen, Pennsylvania. Once the lifeblood of this town, now it's gone. He still wears his jacket to remember.
But this is all I have left after all those years I had with the mill. I gave my heart and soul. And there's many men and women who did the same as I, and especially in Pittsburgh area. And it's like we were spat upon.
Which is why this Democrat voted Republican for the first time after then candidate Donald Trump came to town.
Many of these areas have still never recovered and never will unless I become president.
And then we had Donald Trump come here and profess about reviving American steel. And that's just what all of us steelworkers wanted to hear. Then when he was elected, he pulled a Houdini on us. He disappeared.
Monessen was a thriving steel town, but it's lost half its population since the mill closed in the 80s. Today, it's coming apart at the seams. The poverty rate is 60% higher than the national average, And now, what little business remains is being threatened by the trade war.
But all from China.
They're all from China, yeah.
Buzzy Byron also worked at the steel mill, but he's found new life in his fireworks shop and sports apparel store in town. Both will be hit with a 15% tariff.
Nobody wants to see the price goes up. I don't care what it is. You know, you don't want to come in here this year and spend $10 for this and then come back next year and spend 15. And I feel bad because I know all of these people, and I don't, you know, I feel bad to where I'm not going to let you pay that bigger, higher price.
The trade war is expected to cost American families $1,000 more each year.
That is something that residents that are already struggling can't afford. We need jobs here, but we need jobs that fit the 21st century. We were founded to help supplement what Pittsburgh was doing with steel, and I think that we could play that role again.
While the mayor sees opportunity, Golomb has lost hope. He says voters in the Rust Belt like him believed President Trump had their backs, helping to elect him. Now, he feels lied to.
If you had an opportunity to see the president again, if he came back to Monessen, Pennsylvania, what would you say to him?
He wouldn't speak to me. He
Why?
wouldn't speak to me because I'd have to tell him the truth. Where are your promises?
John's story and the story of Monessen, Pennsylvania is not unique. This is happening up and down the Rust Belt. And Kate, it's not just about whether or not the president can maintain his support here. It's about whether or not any of the Democratic candidates we saw on stage last night can connect with voters here. And in order to do that, they have to come to places like Monessen, Pennsylvania to win their trust and deliver on their promises. Kate?
Yeah, and if there is anyone from president to any of the Democrats on down has a plan to help places like Monessen, Pennsylvania. It's great to have you there, Vanessa. Thanks so much for your great reporting.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We interrupt this regularly scheduled programming to bring you some breaking news. Live from Manhattan, I'm Canderson Hooper alongside my co-host, Take Japper. And we are receiving very, very special reports outside of a local taqueria in the Upper East Side of Manhattan on the corner of 81st and 2nd, where two very special individuals may actually be having dinner as we speak. It is officially Relationship Watch 2019. With more information, Take, why don't you bring us up to speed?
Yes, Canderson, thank you so much. We're all very excited because our very own Dr. Jonathan Rahman and Danielle Punham are said to be at Cascabel Taqueria in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Now, why am I mentioning the name of this restaurant? It's because this is where they had their very first date over 1 year ago. So the fact that they are there again, it's kind of setting off alarm bells here inside CNN because we think this might be the moment that Jonathan decides to take this relationship to its next level. Now, to fill you in a little bit on the background of their relationship, they met over a year ago on a dating app called J-Swipe. And they went on dates, things went really well, they started hanging out more and more, and their relationship progressed. Now they live together, they've been on trips together, their families have met. Jonathan's grandmother is in love with Danielle. These are all very, very good signs. But Jonathan is yet to pop the question. And I know that both of their families are getting really anxious. And Danielle is getting very antsy herself. So now, the fact that they are together at where they had their very first date, it's setting alarm signals here.
Now, Take, didn't they both actually go to the Bahamas recently?
They did go to the Bahamas. Thank you for mentioning that. They were recently together in the Bahamas, and everybody thought this was the moment that Jonathan was going to step it up, get on his knee, and propose to Danielle. But alas, no. He held off. We don't know why, and now we're all getting a little bit worried because Danielle is looking at Jonathan and saying, I learned Farsi for this guy. Why doesn't he step up and propose? And you know what? I have sources saying that if he doesn't propose in the next 1 hour, she may break up with him.
It sounds like this is no longer just Relationship Watch. This is Proposal Watch 2019. What's that? I'm getting some information that we have sources on the street. Our very own senior Proposal Watch correspondent, Trisha Takanawa, is standing outside of this taqueria, and we sent it out to her for a little bit more information on who may actually be inside. Trisha?
Thank you, Canderson. This is Trisha Takanawa, and I'm standing right in front of Cascabel Taqueria on the Upper East Side, where Jonathan and Danielle were spotted walking in about 20 minutes ago. Danielle looking beautiful, as always, and we have some sources inside who are telling us that they're having their second drink, and Danielle seems like she's having a great time. Jonathan, on the other hand, is looking nervous. You could see him shaking a little bit, so who knows, it might be the time where he actually gets down on one knee. I think I'm losing you guys. Hello? Can you hear me?
Like a rainy Sunday morning makes me wanna stay in bed, twisted up all day long. You're my inspiration, girl, you take me places, put the words right into these songs. Stealing kisses undercover, babe, see forever when I see your face. And I swear God made you for me. You make it easy, loving up on you. Make it easy with every little thing you do. You're my sunshine in the darkest days, my my better half, my saving grace. You make me who I wanna be. You make it easy. You took all my rough around the edges, never let it ruffle up your feathers, angel. Yeah, I'm down for life, you got me wrapped around your finger, and I like it just in case you can't tell. You make it easy, loving up on you, make it easy with every little thing you do. You're my sunshine in the darkest days, my better half, my saving grace. You make me who.
Alright, we got some breaking news tonight. How do you feel, guys, how Jonathan and Danielle getting married?
We are so excited. We can't wait to celebrate with them.
I'm so happy my sister finally found the man of her dreams. I finally found a drinking partner. We love Jonathan so much. He's a great addition to the family.
Oh, you heard that, Jonathan. You're a great addition to the family.
We can't wait to party.
And we got ice cream to celebrate with, so can't
look
wait.
At that. Look at that.
Wow, Jonathan is engaged. I mean, he's taught me a lot in my life, but one thing he taught me was that if you really want a girl to like you, you take her to Buffalo Wild Wings on one of your first dates. Guess what? I think it works.
So, Aaron and Britt, tell me how you feel about Danielle and Jonathan getting engaged.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you about a secret you don't know. She bought her engagement dress and wears it thinking you'll propose. Thank God it finally happened, she was going insane. We love our little sister, soon she'll have your last name.
So excited for you two, J-Step work for both of you. This shit's now real, let's toast to seal the deal. Not on the market, hot, soon to be a bride. John, you're her fiance, how many months to the big day?
Congratulations!
So Danielle and Jonathan are now engaged. How do you feel?
I feel really excited because growing up, I grew up with two older brothers who always picked on me, and I always felt like I needed a big sister. And I'm really excited that I finally have a sister that I really love. And I'm really excited for all the adventures and all the celebrations to come. And if I was going to teach you one thing, since you're learning Farsi, you have to learn the word nakon, which was the first word that I ever said because of Jonathan, because he would pick on me so much. It means stop it. So learn nakon.
Danielle June, Jonathan June, congratulations. Mazal tov. I'm so happy for you guys. Wish you a lifetime of happiness. You guys really deserve each other. I love you both so much. Hope you have a wonderful life together with lots of kids. Hope to see you soon and celebrate. Big kiss.
Marion, how do you feel about Jonathan and Danielle's engagement?
I'm so excited! I need a shot! I need another one! And another one! Everybody!
آقای جاناتان مبارکت بشه 100 سال به سال خوب برسی انشالله حضوری سال دیگه به تبریکی.
خب پری جون امروز چی شده؟
امروز خوشحالم که نوه عزیزم جاناتان جون با دانیل جون پروپوز کردن. خیلی خوشحالم هر دوشون انشالله خوشبخت بشن. خیلی دوستشون دارم، براشون بهترین ها رو آرزو میکنم و انشالله به زودی بچه هاشون رو بغل کنیم.
دانیل رو دوست داری؟
خیلی دوستش دارم. I love Daniel.
Yeah?
Yes. I love you Daniel Jung. I love you so much.
Why do you love Danielle?
Because she's very good.
Very good. Oh, and Jonathan, what about Jonathan? What is so good about Jonathan?
Everything is the best.
مبارک باشه.
مبارک باشه. سالوت. لخیم. سلامتی همگی. خوشبخشیم. I love you.
Todd, how do you feel about Jonathan and Danielle's engagement?
Well, you know, being it's our only daughter, I thought we'd be much more demonstrative of how we feel, jumping up and down. We think the world of Jonathan, but we're much more calm than I thought we'd be.
Ellen, how do you feel?
I'm just happy on the inside.
I think we really have it under control. We love you both. We're so excited. We can't wait.
Danielle, I'm so happy you found your Prince Charming. We love you guys.
Jonathan, Danielle, I am so happy for you guys. I can't wait to celebrate. I get to be the ring bearer, right?
So John and Fariba, how do you feel your son is getting engaged to Danielle Punim?
Well, to me, this is the best gift I can get from God to hear my son getting engaged, getting married, or proposing. It was the best news I've had for a long time, and I'm so happy that he's ending up with so beautiful girl like Danielle.
And Mom, how do you feel?
Mazal tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazal tov, mazal tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazal tov, siman tov, mazal tov, mazal tov, siman tov, yeah, yeah, yeah.